let's go to Brussels to see how the latest developments have been playing out there. Our correspondent Shona Murray is there for us. Morning to you, Shona. What has the EU's reaction been, and what really are the options left available?
Well, Rosie, I think that on the face of it, the EU is acting composed and will go ahead and restart the negotiations on the future relationship with the UK today. We know that Brussels has requested that the UK retreat from this legislation by the end of the month, but it's pretty clear that that's not going to happen. In reality, there's a huge amount of anger and frustration that the UK has decided to unilaterally act to override the withdrawal agreement, but also because Brexit has dominated Brussels for so many years now, and there had been some hope that the both sides could come to some sort of agreement at the end of the year. So really all eyes are on Brussels now. But I caught up with Professor of European Law Gavin Barrett and asked him what he thought the options are for Brussels.
I think that Britain is serious in applying the provisions of this particular piece of legislation, that they would simply stop negotiating the economic partnership agreement with the United Kingdom and refuse to resume those negotiations until the United Kingdom gets serious about complying with the provisions that they've already agreed to the withdrawal agreement and complying with its international law obligations in that regard. And that's the kind of thing that the European Parliament is now talking about, because they have to, let's not forget that they have a role in approving this particular agreement.
Shona, if the EU say they'll break off talks, does that then mean that's a no-deal Brexit?
It does, Rosie. I think, first of all, the EU is adamant that it doesn't want to break off talks for a number of reasons, mainly that it feels that that's exactly what Boris Johnson probably wants it to do, that Boris Johnson can blame Brussels for breaking off the talks in the first place. But second of all, they've worked very hard for a deal. They've worked hard to coordinate with the UK, and a no-deal scenario would be very destructive for both sides, probably more for the UK, according to Brussels, but the EU feels that that's not something it wants. And the other point that has to be made as well is that the withdrawal agreement came into force on the 1st of February, so it is an internationally legally binding agreement. Even if the UK decides it's trying to override it, that would actually be a breach of international law, as we've heard. And the withdrawal, the UK is still obliged, no matter what, under the conditions of the withdrawal agreement. So it will become a very legally messy scenario, a very difficult scenario, particularly from a diplomatic point of view, because trust and relations are really at their lowest ebb. If there was a no deal, both sides would still have to cobble together some sort of a relationship, because otherwise trade would completely break down from the two sides. So it would be very, very serious if that's what happens. And I think in Brussels, they're going to try to do their best to ensure that the EU can't be blamed for walking away from the trade talks. And that's something that they try to support all this week as the trade negotiations resume. Rosie?
Shona, thank you very much. Our correspondent there in Brussels.